As songwriters, we're always looking for that one tweak that can have a massive impact on our songs. You know, that one thing that takes a song from good to great? And in today's video, I'm going to show you exactly what that is and how to implement it into your songwriting. Now, it's a simple melody technique that completely transformed the way that I see melody, but also songwriting itself. It made my melodies catchier, it gave me clear contrast between verse and choruses, and honestly, it's the reason that my songs now feel professional rather than okay. Now, it's a technique that I call spacing. Now, before we dive in, it's Danny here from Songwriters International, where we help songwriters develop their craft by sharing tips, tricks, and techniques on all things songwriting so that you can go and write your best possible songs. And if you're new to the channel, don't forget to hit the subscribe button and drop a comment for any other videos that you'd like to see. Alright, let's jump on into this. So for a long time, and I'm sure you can relate to this, I thought my problem was chord progressions. Then I thought it was lyrics. And then I thought it was my voice. But no matter what I tried to do, whether it was fancier chord progressions, or lyrically stronger storytelling songs, or vocal lessons, everything still seemed flat. And one day I finally realized everything that changed my songwriting. My melodies had no contrast. Every melody had the same density, had the same rhythm, had the same melodic pattern throughout. And once I learnt this technique called spacing, the songs themselves, but more importantly, the melody starts to be able to breathe. Now, having critiqued 1,500 songs personally of students' tracks, I see this as the biggest problem in songwriting, and that's why we're diving into this. But I want to give you a little bit of context. Because a lot of the times, the verses will flow straight into the chorus. And what separates okay songwriters to those that are pro are the contrasts that we have between those sections. Where a songwriter who is not professional just yet, is struggling, will have a verse and the melody will be the exact same going into the chorus. Whereas when you listen to some of your favorite songs, you'll be able to differentiate the two sections just by the melody they use alone. And when you don't use melodic contrast correctly, the listener, or me when I'm critiquing a song, I'll go through and I'll try to ask, well, where am I now in the song? The melody tells the listener through the ears what part of the song we are in by either repeating the verse melody or taking us to that big moment in the chorus. Because by melody alone, you should be able to feel this is the verse, this is the pre-chorus, this is the chorus, this is the bridge. They should all have their own moment. Too often, it often sounds like this. Da 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 da, and we'll continually use the same melody throughout the song. Da 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 da. And you cannot tell what section of the song we are in because the melody is identical throughout. And then oftentimes songwriters will come to me asking why their songs don't really hit. Here's a really powerful tip and a different way to look at your songwriting, and in particular the melody. Your melody is a roller coaster. It should go up, it should go down. It should have that movement just like a roller coaster does. A roller coaster does not stay at the same pace on the same straight line for the entirety of it. It has those bumps and those, like I say, rises and those sharp falls, and that's what keeps people going. That's what builds the adrenaline. That's what builds the rush for the people that are taking the ride. And most importantly, you need to understand that no two sections are the same. And that's how our songs should feel section by section. They should never feel like you are going from the verse into the chorus with the same melody. Because what don't we have? Tension, release, we don't have that roller coaster effect. So here's the simple fix, and as I've mentioned, it's what we call spacing, but I just needed to give you a little bit of context before we actually dived into the technique itself. So stick with me, we're going to dive on through this. So what we do first of all is, let's suppose we've written a verse melody. Okay, we've written the verse. What I want you to ask yourself is this section of the song, is it wordy? Is there a lot of words in this section? Or is there not much going on? Do we have a lot of space between each word? Are we elongating the words? Or, as I've mentioned, are we saying word after word with not very much space? Now, is your verse word heavy? Now, that would mean lots of fast syllables and not very much breathing room. Where if we had it very spacious, it would mean that there's fewer words, there's longer notes, and perhaps more emotional space. And here's the magic part. Whatever one section does, you do the opposite into the next section. So let's give you an example of this. Let's just suppose for this instance, we have a verse melody that is very spacious. It's very drawn out. The words are elongated, and it would sound something like this. I don't know why you can see how we are dragging out the words and we have a lot of space between each word itself. Now the opposite of that would be to fill in those spaces and have more rhythm in the melody, which would sound something like this. I don't think I got that better got baby feel like I'm a better cause I got that feeling like I know what you done cause I. And now you can hopefully start to see how we're going to build real simple contrast with the same chord progression, with fundamentally a very similar melody in terms of its sitting static, but we are using this spacing technique. What the brain realizes and our ears is we pick up on the rhythm change, we pick up on the speed, we pick up on the amount of words that are now being delivered, and instantly we can create contrast between the two sections. That's why great choruses feel like the release in the song. It's because spacing creates release. It creates a moment that you can differentiate the two sections of a song. So now what we're going to do is another example. We're going to use a fast-paced melody. Okay, we're going to have a melody in a verse which is very word heavy. Okay, it's going to sound something like this. I've been thinking about you all the time. I can't sleep at night. I don't know. I'm thinking about you. Got me thinking that and that. I've been thinking about you. Got this feeling that burn over me. But I can feel this finger rhythm back over me. Now you can see from that example, as I've said that I would, lots of words, not very much space. Now instead of continuing that into a chorus, we're now going to flip the script. We're going to go for longer noted words. We're going to leave more space, and instantly you're going to see how this creates contrast. So again, I'm going to start with the verse and then we're going to go into the chorus. I'm not going to tell you when we're going into the chorus. You're just going to be able to hear it. I've been thinking about you every night when I'm all up alone. Thinking about you on my mind. I got this that I should go. Thinking back and I've been thinking that no, cause I will never let you go. And I will never let you go. You feel that? Did you hear it in your ears? Did you recognize that? But I didn't need to tell you that one section was the verse and one section was the chorus. You picked up on the simple change. You picked up on that change, didn't you, where we went, space. We didn't say anything else. Yes, we sped it up a little bit more after that, but because we started that first opening line with the space, you as the listener recognise that pattern change straight away. And suddenly the chorus feels different. The chorus feels like it differentiates to the verse. And now we have two sections of a song that are clear for the listener to understand and hear. Now let's do the opposite. Let's do a melody in the verse which is very spacious, and then we're going to transition into a chorus which is very word heavy. I've been up all night. I can get you off my mind. 'Cause every time you walk away, I got nothing on here to say. I think I'm going crazy 'cause I'm thinking that better than. 'Cause every time I feel you got me up and up and up and up. I've been thinking about you, got me thinking about your loving. And again, you feel that one section was spacious, didn't have very many words. In the next section thereafter, we sped it up, we increased the amount of syllables, and we just added more words. Now, of course, if we were writing an actual song from start to finish, we wouldn't necessarily have contrast that quickly between the two sections. For this demonstration, I'm just doing it a little bit quicker, but you might have 4, 6, 8 bars of a verse. Then you would make that transition into the next section of your song. You would either increase or decrease the amount of syllables that you have. You can literally use this technique in any single song, any single genre, and it works every single time. You can just pick up your guitar and do this technique and it will come so easily. I can't diddle da. I like it at you. Let's change it. I can't feel that heartbeat further now. I can't feel my heart then further now. I can feel this way. Now you can see how we used it there. We did 2 lines of a spacious melody. The third line was sped up, or had more syllables, I should say. And then the fourth line, we went back to the original pattern that we had. So you can also use it within one section of a song. What I mean by that is you could use it in a verse. So you can have 3 lines which are the same, and then 1 line in there which is perhaps either sped up or actually decreases the amount of syllables. And it's incredibly simple, but honestly transformative for your songwriting, and more importantly, the melody and the contrast that you have between sections. Now, I just want to share with you 3 common mistakes that I see when people go on to implement this, because there's one thing understanding it, there's another thing going to the guitar or instrument and actually making sure you do it correctly. Mistake number 1 is changing only chords, not the melody. So what you will do is you will go to your A minor, let's say, you'll go to a G, and then you'll go to your F or something else. You might use really fancy chords if you're a great guitarist. That itself is not enough, and that also is not using the spacing technique. You could use the spacing technique on the same chord. So make sure you don't rely on chord progressions and them to actually differentiate the 2 sections. Big mistake number 2 is adding more notes instead of space. What I mean by that is if you're going from one section where it's very word heavy and you've got a lot of syllables going on for the listener to actually process, to then continue that on or increase it further with more words. For example, if you were to go, I've been thinking about you, I've been feeling like I'm and then you go to, cause I can feel like I can it's still very word heavy. So just literally go the opposite way. Either decrease or increase the amount of syllables dependent on the section before. Big mistake number 3 is making every section sound energetic. When everything is hyped, when everything is driving at 100 miles per hour, whether that's your melody, your production, or anything else for that matter, nothing feels special. And with songwriting, especially things like choruses, they should be the big moment. They should be the hype moment. Everything else before it, and perhaps after it, like the verse 2, shouldn't necessarily have the same packaging as the chorus. It should never stand out necessarily as much. And the great thing is this has nothing to do with music theory. It's such a simple concept. It's got nothing about expensive gear. It's got nothing to do with you playing a great guitar or a super cheap guitar. It does not matter. It can be used even if you don't play an instrument. You can just use your vocal and use a click. I don't know what happened, so I can feel your love and got me. And you can speed up the melody. And every time I sit down to write a song now, I'm always thinking, is that melody spacious? Or is it very word heavy? And whatever it is, the first thing I will do is then try the opposite. And sometimes it will work. Sometimes it might not work, dependent specifically on the song. But 9 times out of 10, it will get me where I need to be, or it will push me in the direction of a new level of inspiration that I haven't considered before. And once you start thinking this way, creating new melodies in your songs literally becomes effortless. And I genuinely believe, from personal experience, but having literally taught this to thousands of songwriters, this technique can single-handedly transform your songwriting alone.